And I bet being as sensitive as you are, you can feel it when people are feeling the depths of their soul, whether they're feeling pain or anguish or hurt or disappointment. How do you not take that on?
It's hard not to.
Yeah.
There are some stories and experiences that when shared, it's very difficult not to feel emotion for that individual.
Of course.
So in the moment, I would say I try to be authentic with my feelings.
Yep.
But it's after that I have to switch off and sort of leave that emotion in that time that I had it with them.
Yes.
And I do that by whether it be exercise, removing that energy from my body so that I'm focusing on something else. I actually love comedy, like even just watching something, on YouTube, something that just makes me laugh so much. I love doing that, and just changing the state of my body, my physiology, my energy, my focus. And after that, unless I really tried to focus on the experience I just had with that individual, it would be difficult just to go straight back to that emotion because it's not my experience.
Yes. Very important medicine. Something that I've had to learn and didn't necessarily come naturally to me either, I have to say. And I think when we work for ourselves, and for the most part, when we work in an industry where we are of service, it doesn't necessarily mean we have to be the servant, which is a very interesting archetype. So to hold the space means that for me personally, I can hold it while you're transitioning, and I can hold it quite comfortably, but it's also up to me, and it's my responsibility to let it go afterwards. And change my vibration. And I really like what you said when you said after you've changed your physiology, which will invariably affect your mental and emotional state, unless you really, really want to, it's going to be very hard to go back to that feeling because your natural state has changed. And in energy healing, we talk a lot about that because we talk about the frequency that you have. To go back into that state would mean that you'd have to change your frequency again. And if you've already moved out of that state, you have to consciously choose to go back into it. I love that you said that. Yeah,
it's something I know Anthony Robbins focuses on a lot in a lot of his workshops. It's that physiology and how, although at times it can feel like the emotion is taking over us, our body language, our expressions, our tone of voice, our overall physiology, often that's just a pattern that we're running.
Yes.
And we're dipping into that pattern and not realizing how much that is just making us run that loop.
Yes.
That emotion so much.
Yes. You're very right. I experienced it after many years. I've experienced it also with you mentioned previously, just to give you a background of my thought at the moment, that sometimes it's harder to not take on the energy of the heavier emotions, depending on the type of event that you've had. Yet when it's been positive, you can sort of run with that energy for days and weeks to come. And I found that when holding the space, irrespective of whether it was a heavy emotion that I experienced or the form of something in the form of elation, like holding the space as a marriage celebrant, I find that I still need to change my state. So often if I drive to the northern beaches and I officiate a really beautiful ceremony and I meet a whole bunch of soulful, heart-centered people and it's very exciting, I still feel like I need to disengage from holding the space and being the celebrant or teaching a workshop, for example. So I often have my togs in the boot of my car, and as I drive back to Bronte, which are the eastern suburbs in Sydney for those that aren't from Australia, I find that I'll just drive down a couple of beaches and swim. And and that salt water actually cleanses my aura. So even though I was in a happy state, even though I held the space for some incredible transformations, they're not my transformations. It's not my state, and I need to let go.
That's so interesting. I may try that actually, because that's such a good point.
Because water, especially the salt water, really cleanses our aura. So when I go home as Patty. I go home as Patty Cake, and I walk my dog, and I'm back to being the daughter and the sister and the lover and the friend, not the space holder.
Yes.
Yeah. And then my energy changes so that I invite my friends and family to hold the space for me. So I'm not always in that archetypal mode.
Yes, that's so true. And actually, there's probably an element of that I do, but not consciously, because I'm not a hugely extroverted person, and therefore holding events, because I enjoy the subject so much, I don't feel it's hugely forced, but there's definitely a momentum of me having to pick my energy up to, go to the event, host the evening, talk to the attendees. And then when I get home, I definitely drop down back into my more sort of natural state, should I say, which is a little bit more introverted. So there's probably an element of that, but I didn't realize I was doing it.